These are the eyes that I see right in front of me. Thank you all very much for showing up and showing what an important day this is. As you entered the space today, you may have walked by a sculpture on the corner of Broadway and Pine. The museum serves as the permanent site for this 10-faceted steel sculpture created by artist Scott Osborne. The sculpture was installed in 2023 to honor the 10 victims and has been etched with a note of remembrance and the names of the loved ones we lost on its base. We are honored to be present in this space along with that sculpture today. 4 years. It's the time to complete a high school education. In our city government world, that's a city council term. We've seen a cycle of Olympics and a leap year. In the aftermath of the tragedy that changed our lives and took our loved ones, life has also continued on. For many of us here today, we continue to show our resilience by holding on to two truths at the same time: that we will never forget what happened, and that we will try to keep going forward in the spirit that those we lost would have wanted. I hold each of you in my heart as we move through our time together today. And first, I would like to welcome City of Boulder Mayor Aaron Brockett to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to have you all here on this very solemn and important occasion, and I'm so glad to be able to be here with you and grateful to my City Council colleagues, State Representative Ginny Joseph and Congressman Joe Neguse for joining us as well. I was a City Council member on that dark day of March 22nd, 2021. It is hard to believe 4 years have passed since we lost those 10 precious community members in the mass shooting at the Table Mesa King Soopers on that day. And it is so hard to believe the pain is still so fresh, and I remember that day as if it were yesterday. The shock and the grief and the horror that I felt as I learned about the unspeakable acts that had occurred at King Soopers. But today we are here to remember our loved ones and celebrate their lives. As we settle into our time here together, I invite you to light the candle that you were given on the way in, while I share the Boulder City Council's Day of Remembrance declaration, followed by a collective moment of silence. This declaration was issued by Council shortly after the tragic events 4 years ago and was also read at Thursday's City Council meeting. So I'm going to share with you now our declaration of the Boulder Day of Remembrance. March 22nd, 2021 is a date that will be forever seared in the collective memory of our community. On that Monday afternoon, a grievous atrocity was committed that will mark each of us for the rest of our lives. But none more so than the families and the friends of the 10 people taken from us suddenly and violently. People going about their daily lives, doing their jobs, feeding their families, protecting one another. Our entire community joins those families and friends in saying the names of our neighbors taken from us before their time. Denny Stong, Nevin Stanisic, Ricky Olds, Trelona Bartkowiak, Suzanne Fountain, Terry Leiker, Kevin Mahoney, Lynn Murray, Jody Waters, and Officer Eric Talley. It has been said that there are 3 deaths. The first is when the body ceases to function. The second is when the body is returned to the earth. And the third is that moment sometime in the future when the person's name is spoken for the very last time. Let us never allow this third death of our 10 fallen neighbors. Let us take the time to speak their names, celebrate their lives, mourn their passing. As long as we remember them, they will never truly die. And so as our modest and humble gesture, the City Council of the City of Boulder declares that every year, in perpetuity, March 22nd shall be designated the Boulder Day of Remembrance. On that day every year, our community will pause and remember the 10 people who departed. On that day, every year, we will celebrate their lives. And on that day every year, we will say their names out loud so that in our hearts, they will live on. 4 years later, these words still resonate with me. Though this year feels a little bit different. Last September finally brought the end of a long and difficult legal process. Although nothing can bring back the lives that we lost, I take some comfort in knowing that the conclusion of the trial with a guilty verdict may have helped some community members in their healing journey. And I'm grateful that the survivors and first responders who were there that day, along with the victims' loved ones, were finally able to see some resolution. And I want to extend a deep thank you to District Attorney Michael Doherty and his staff for bringing that prosecution to a successful conclusion. We're very grateful. I am incredibly proud to be part of this extraordinary community that continually demonstrates resilience and support for one another in the face of adversity. And I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our partners, to the Boulder Police Department, some of whom are with us here today, the Boulder Fire Department, and all the first responders who rushed to the scene on March 22nd, again to the District Attorney's Office, who worked tirelessly to reach a trial conclusion, to the Boulder community, and most of all to the victims' families for keeping the memory of those we lost that day alive. Thank you all so much for being here today. Together, we truly are Boulder Strong. I'll turn it back to Pam Davis.
Thank you very much for those words, Mayor Brockett. Next, I would like to introduce District Attorney Michael Doherty. Michael is a fixture in our Boulder community and has offered, as you just heard, tremendous strength and support in the aftermath of March 22nd, 2021 and the years that have followed.
Good afternoon. Today is and always will be a day to remember and honor the victims and to lift up their memories and to support and embrace their families. And for us to come together as a community to mourn the loss and to recognize what we continue to suffer, especially the victim families, but also to recognize the strength and resiliency of the families and this great community. And to Mayor Brockett's point, and I greatly appreciate your leadership and all the help from City Council since the very beginning, Mayor Brockett. From last year to this year, there's been one very significant change. We secured justice at trial. I will say, Katarina Booth gave me invaluable advice, as usual, which is don't talk too much about the trial, and she was right in saying that. But I want to say one thing about the trial, in particular, now and then towards the end of my brief remarks. The first is one of the most powerful pieces of evidence in the entire case was a video recording from inside King Soopers before the shooting took place, before anything had happened. And it was people living their lives, working, shopping, thinking about where they were going to go next, thinking about a loved one, what they were going to have for dinner that night. Innocent people living their regular lives before that reality and that peace was shattered. I've watched that video so many times. And I'm going to share with you something that I've never talked about publicly, which is as you're watching the video, I'm going to ask Ken Kuffner if you recognize this. He could just nod. We never talked about this. But as you're watching the video, there are 4 young men carrying a case of beer. And they walk through the registers and along the front of the store and out the front door. And I just want to say to them, if they were listening, you stole that beer and I saw you do it. I see you. Every time I'd watch that video, I would think to myself, cue the 4 guys with the beer, and I'd shake my head, smile, get slightly annoyed because I am the district attorney, but also recognize that they were getting away with a case of beer, but also their lives. And what happened next shattered and destroyed so many people, including many of you here. And that's why the murderer is now serving 10 consecutive life sentences and 1,334 years for what he did to your loved ones and for this community. And he deserved it because he committed an incredibly devastating, intentional, horrific, and evil act upon people he had never met before, who had done nothing wrong, and by all accounts were 10 beautiful souls. But for him, they'd be alive today. I know from talking to the families that they're alive in your hearts and alive in your minds every day. But he took them from this earth, and he should be held responsible. And he has been. But today we come together to honor those victims and to lift them up. On every March 22nd, every year, we will do exactly that. And I appreciate very much the Museum of Boulder and the city and all the organizers who came together to make this event possible. And we will do this every single year to honor those victims. To honor Nevin, Kevin, Trelana, Ricky, Denny, Lynn, Jody, Terry, Suzanne, and Officer Eric Talley, all 10 of the victims. So I don't want to spend my time with you here talking about the shooter or the evidence in the case, because quite frankly, because of the criminal justice system and the state hospital, you put up with that for far too long. I'm going to talk not about the difficult parts of the trial, but one thing that really struck me about the trial that I want to share with you and emphasize today is this, which is when a horrific and evil act is committed, we should always look at the response that comes. Because it's not the evil act of one person that defines us as a community and a society, but it's the response of that community in the face of terror and tragedy. That's how I view it. And at trial, we were able to hear stories of true heroism. So Logan Smith, Christopher Tatum, Julie Keaton, all people who had never been trained to endure something like this, but all who responded with incredible courage and strength in the moment to save the lives of others. There were people throughout the store who are alive today because of the acts of the heroes from within the store. And of course, then the heroes who came to the store in response to the calls for help. To the first responders, police and fire, thank you. Officer Eric Talley made the ultimate sacrifice. And in charging into King Soopers, he saved so many. But he left behind 7 kids who no longer have a father. He did that because he was serving this community so bravely. And I'll just tell you quickly, I can't thank everybody who worked on this case enough. So Officer Richard Stidell and all the officers who responded, Boulder Strong Resource Center and the city, the community members that came together, all the victim advocates who were amazing, and all the community support. I'll share with you, right before the trial, I was having lunch with an old friend of mine, and she's a federal prosecutor. And she was asking me, how many people do you have on the trial team? I said, we have 4. And she said, okay, so 4 attorneys, and then how many investigators and paralegals? I said, no, we actually just have 4. It's me and Ken Kuffner and an investigator and a paralegal, but we actually have an army, is what I told her. That's what it feels like, because of the victim advocates on the case and the community members, the city. It really felt like we had a tremendous response all throughout and including the trial. And with trial, usually as prosecutors, it feels like you're a small crew going to fight for justice. That's what it normally feels like, even in the most horrific cases. In this case, it never felt that way. It always felt like it was all of us together as a community. All of us. Not just the DA's office, not just law enforcement, all of us. And in this case, you could feel the entire community responding and fighting for justice and coming together all the way up to and including today and in the years ahead. I also want to recognize a group that hasn't really been heard from or recognized before, which are the jurors on that case. And if the jurors were in this room, what I would say to them is we all owe you a debt of gratitude. It chokes me up a little when I say the jurors because they were people who got a jury summons in the mail. They were not at King Soopers that day. They did not sign on for this. They did not have experience working in cases. They were picked at random and went through a process and then sat in that jury box and listened to some of the most horrific facts you could ever experience and heart-wrenching testimony. And they sat through it every single day. And they did their duty, and that is an understatement. And they worked hard to reach the right result. And once they were done, because they recognized the importance of serving in this role and serving as jurors, you didn't see them on TV, you didn't see them signing up for book deals, and if they were here, you wouldn't even know who they were. But they need to know how much we appreciate them, because they served on behalf of this community as jurors in the worst case one could ever have. And I'm eternally grateful to them for their service and the determination to reach the right result in holding the defendant responsible and finding him guilty on all 55 counts. What was truly amazing about the trial was the feeling of togetherness amongst all of you. So we had the DA training room, and it's a large room in the Justice Center. And before trial every day, during lunch, and then after court, all the victim families and their loved ones would gather along with victim advocates and members of our office. Every day I walked in there, I was struck by the power of the love and support and friendship that you have formed over the years. I know that has helped you, but believe me, it inspired us to keep fighting for the right result. So when I have memories of the case and of the trial, those are the memories that I hold most dear. That is what's most special, because that is our response as a community. That is who we are. That is what we do in the face of terror and tragedy. We come together, and we'll continue to do that. This journey was too long in getting to justice. But as a result, I've gotten to know some of the families better than families in any other kinds of cases. And they are truly special people who supported one another throughout this process. But it was also our community. So the very first day of the trial, I'm walking back from the courtroom during the lunch break, and I walk into the DA training room, and there's 60 or 70 people there. And there's also a huge buffet set up. And I look at Shannon, who works in the office, and I'm like, what's with all the food? Because if you don't work in public service, just believe me when I say we don't usually see food associated with what we're doing. And she's like, it's donated by a restaurant in the community, and I think we have food for every day of this trial. Which really struck me that after all this time, the community was still coming together to support the victims and to make sure they were being supported all throughout the trial. It really symbolizes what I think is most important. But that's only true because of your love for your family members who you lost, because of your strength and your resiliency. So I'm reminded of last year, Olivia spoke, bless you. Olivia spoke, and the strength and resiliency and courage you have, along with others, is just so inspiring. And it lifts all of us up. And it's about her talking about living her life to honor her mom and recognizing life as a gift and every day being intentional in how she lives her life. It's walking into a meeting I walked into last week about reducing gun violence and efforts that we are committed to fighting for and supporting, because we should never have to gather like this as a community. We must continue to do, and I promise you I will continue to do everything I can to reduce gun violence in this country. So I walk into a meeting last week, and there's Ellen and Erica sitting in the front row of the meeting because they've turned their pain into purpose, and they're in that fight. So however that you're choosing to honor your loved ones, just know that that's a special part of this journey, and I am in awe of each and every one of you and incredibly honored to work alongside you. Our entire team was honored to fight for justice with you and on your behalf and on behalf of your loved ones. And today, we honor all the victims and support and embrace all of their families. We lost 10 beautiful souls that day. They will never be forgotten. And I will always remember the strength and support of this community and everyone in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, DA Doherty, both for your remarks as well as for your tireless service on our behalf. Thank you. I'm now pleased to introduce Boulder Police Department's Chief of Staff, Alistair McNiven. Alistair is here to speak on behalf of the department and as well as Boulder Police Chief Stephen Redfern.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Pam said, I'm the Chief of Staff for the Boulder Police Department. My name is Alistair McNiven, and it's an honor for me to be here with you today. And Chief Redfern asked me to express that he's sorry he couldn't be here, but he has a work obligation that prevented him from coming. He wanted to also express a number of other things, one of which was that he shared with me that during the trial, he connected with a number of the family members, and he was hoping to be here today to reconnect and continue that relationship. So he's, again, sorry he can't be here. And in his absence, though, he'd asked that I share that he wishes to continue his support and appreciation for this community and for all of you. So as I was preparing to come here today and deliver a speech, I was struck by how significant this past year has been. 4 years have passed since the tragedy, and then this last year has been mentioned. Justice was served in the legal system. And the completion of the trial marked the beginning of a new phase of healing and processing. And I've heard that for some, this has been a relief and has opened space to celebrate their loved ones again. And some have expressed that the trial provided community and support around this event in a way they've never had before. And some have expressed a deepening of their pain. At the police department, the trial certainly stirred up a lot. Responding officers who didn't get to discuss what happened that day for 3.5 years were able to let it out for the first time. We were able to hold debriefs, process the day, and begin moving from a state of freeze to a state of motion. I know it's difficult to unearth all those memories and the pain of that day. It was necessary, and we're grateful for the shift. So personally, the completion of the trial provided me with an opportunity to revisit memories of my time with Eric Talley, specifically the period of time when I had the honor of being his sergeant. So I'd like to share some of those stories with you today. For those of you who knew Eric, it's not a revelation that he enjoyed a good argument. I do too. And over our time together, we discussed and debated many issues, from philosophy and faith to policing and politics, and even sometimes discussions about my challenges with technology, which was an area of expertise for him. And we didn't always agree on everything, which is what made it fun, but we always listened to one another. And the conversations showed me how open-minded and non-judgmental Eric was. He was able to see my perspective and appreciate it even when our beliefs didn't align. And also in preparing for today, I got the chance to look back over some notes that I made when I wrote Eric's annual performance evaluations. And I was reminded that I never had an issue coming up with things to write about him. And the problem was editing it down because there was always too much. So I'll just mention one of the calls that I summarized, which I think really exemplified his service. One day he responded to the crisis center for an adolescent who needed to go to the hospital on a mental health hold. And this teenager was scared and upset and was clearly going to physically resist. And Eric stood next to the clinician who'd asked for help, made eye contact with this young person, and proclaimed, "You're going to the hospital, I'm going with you." And somehow within minutes, he had that teenager laughing on the gurney and off to the hospital. And then once they got there, Eric walked that teenager through every step without any issue. He knew what people needed, and he cared, and he got on their level, and he never gave up on them. And I remembered that he became a go-to responder for some of the more challenging mental health crisis calls, both at the police department and at the crisis center for walk-ins. And he never hesitated. He never complained about the difficulty of the calls. And he treated people with the dignity and respect that they deserved. Eric wasn't just a hero. He was an interesting and unique human, and we miss him. And his radio number, 295, and his name are scattered all over our department in wall hangings, on T-shirts, on bracelets, and on water bottles, and in pictures. And we won't forget him. And now we're lucky enough and honored to have his legacy continuing at the PD. After the trial concluded, one of Eric's daughters applied for and was hired at our dispatch center. And the police department family now feels a little more whole with her as part of the team. So, on reflecting on this last year, I have to acknowledge and thank the DA's office, Michael Doherty and Ken Kuffner, and their entire team, which also includes Boulder PD Detective Sarah Cantu, a phenomenal investigator who's continued her incredible work at the DA's office. You all did an incredible job. And I just can't say thanks enough. The outcome of the trial and the healing that's come from it is evidence of that. And thanks to Lindsay Bradvika Bravdika, excuse me, who led the DA Victim Advocates, and to all the amazing victim advocates for the DA's office and from the police department, who collaboratively showed up to support the victims and to support all the rest of the teams that supported the victims too. And a special thanks also to Katarina Booth, who returned to the Justice Center to support every victim of this incident after she retired from the DA's office. And her commitment and care were unwavering and will be remembered as part of what set our response apart from others. Thank you too for the support from our city staff, from doing everything from providing rec center passes to victims' families during the trial, to your commitment to keeping the city safe and being there to always remember the humans whose lives were taken that day. Nevin, Kevin, Trelawnna, Ricky, Denny, Lynn, Terry, Jody, Suzanne, and Eric. We remember you and we'll not forget you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alistair. We now have the opportunity to hear from some families of those who we lost. And first, I would like to welcome Fee Bernier, who is partner to Suzanne Fountain. Take your time.
We're going to pull this back.
Yeah, whatever.
Hi, guys. So I'm the last one to perform here. All the other people have, I don't know, they're not here anymore. That's my girl. We're all beautiful people, but she's an 11. So the last 3 years, I played songs that I wrote for Suzanne. Couldn't help myself, and I'm glad I got to do those. This year I've been writing a lot of kind of darker songs. I didn't think they were appropriate for this. So I'm going to do a song by, I don't know who knows who Stephen Sondheim is, but if you don't, he's maybe the greatest writer for musicals, and I'll fight anybody who says otherwise. I'm sorry that I haven't gotten to meet, hang out with the families, I guess because I'm by myself. So when I came in here today, I recognized 3 or 4 faces. But my name's Fee, and if anybody wants to say hi to me, please do. I hope that after this trial that everybody's, gotten the, I don't know, want to say revenge, but all of those thoughts of hatred, and I hope we can get that out of our system and move on to love. I don't want to get into my own politics, but when this happened, it wasn't him that I hated. It was society. I mean, now we have a mass murder every 3rd day. And if it's not 10 people, oh, well, it's just a killing. No big deal. Well, this happens all the time, and it's got to have something to do with all of us. So I hope we can get past this. I know there's a lot of grief. I still do it. A lot of hatred. And find love somehow. I'm not saying for him, I just mean for us. Anyways. If you were here last year, you know why I wear shorts. So Suzanne will recognize me. the sun comes up, I think about you. The coffee cup, I think about you. I love you so, it's like I'm losing my mind. The morning ends, I think about you. I talk to friends, I think about you. I love you so, it's like I'm losing my mind. All afternoon doing every little chore, the thought of you stays bright. Sometimes I stand in the middle of the floor, not going left, not going right. I dim the lights, I think about you. Spend sleepless nights to think about you. You said you loved me, or were you just being kind? Or am I losing, or am I losing? Or am I losing my mind? I dim the lights, I think about you. Spend sleepless nights, I think about you. You said you loved me, or were you just being kind? Or am I losing, or am I losing, or am I losing my mind? Thank you. Thank you. Stephen Sondheim, everybody.
Fee, thank you. That was beautiful. Really appreciate you. Next, I'd like to welcome Bob Olds up here, uncle of Ricky Olds.
I'd just like to start by thanking Mr. Dory and his team. Because of that, my words today aren't going to have the anger. They're not going to have the hatred. Because of his team that fought so hard to bring justice to this situation, I can now take a breath. I can now smile. I can now laugh because that fight is over, and they helped me with that fight. And I owe them nothing but gratitude and my heart for that, because that was my last fight for Ricky. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to honor and remember Ricky Olds. She was a daughter, a friend, a leader, and a bright light in the lives of so many. It has been 4 years since we lost her in the tragedy that took place at King Soopers on that dreadful day of March 22nd, 2021. 4 years since our world became a little darker, but also 4 years in which her spirit has continued to shine through each of us. Stop making me try to cry, Katerina. Ricky's story is one of perseverance, of strength, and unwavering determination. She did not have an easy path in life. She faced challenges no child should have to endure, experiencing hardship and mental abuse in her home life. Yet, she never allowed those circumstances to define her. She rose above them. She carved out her own path, refusing to let her past dictate her future. Ricky was a fighter, not in the sense of aggression, but in the way she approached life. She worked hard. She smiled through adversity. And she proved to everyone around her that she was capable of great things. At King Soopers, she was more than an employee. She was a leader in the making, a rising star whose dedication and warmth made a lasting impact. Her colleagues admired her. Her friends cherished her. And her family took pride in the woman she was becoming. But Ricky was more than her work. She was a force of energy, a presence you couldn't ignore. She had a laugh that could fill a room and a heart big enough to make everyone feel like they belonged. She knew what it meant to struggle, and because of that, she made sure others felt seen, valued, and loved. Though we grieve her loss, we must also celebrate her life. We must honor her resilience, her kindness, and the joy she brought into the world. Ricky's story does not end with this tragedy. It continues in the love we share, in the support we give to others, and in the mission of Ricky's Foundation to help children facing adversity just as she once did. Her life reminds us that even in the face of hardship, we can choose to shine. And that's what Ricky did. She shined. Today, let's carry that light forward. Let's be kinder. Let's be stronger. Let's fight for a world where no one feels alone, where every child has a chance to rise, just like Ricky did. We miss you, Ricky. We love you, and we will never forget you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, for sharing Ricky's light with us. Next, I'd like to introduce Erica Mahoney, daughter of Kevin Mahoney.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to say I loved what everyone has said, and Bob, that was amazing. I always think before these, I'm not going to cry, and then I realize I probably will, so. Okay. Okay. So I'm Erica Mahoney. I'm Kevin Mahoney's daughter, and today I want to speak about healing. After what happened, I lived in a state of denial and darkness for a very long time. I felt detached and lost, and I could hardly even remember what day it was. So for years, I was stuck in the year 2020. Every time I had to write down the date on forms and paperwork, I would accidentally write 2020 because time stopped for me that year, because that was before the tragedy. I struggled in the after. I gave birth 3 months later, and eventually began to work on myself and face the pain, but it was not easy. For the first time this year, I've been able to remember what year it is, and so I purposely write 2025. I'm more grounded than ever. The trial was a huge part of moving forward. So today, Mainly, I want to say thank you to my amazing community of Boulder, Colorado, to all the people who worked so hard on the case. Thank you so much. To all the officers and the first responders, to all the people in the store, the victim witness specialists and victim advocates, and everyone else who showed up for us. Thank you to my amazing mom and family. Thank you to the entire community. Most importantly, I want to say thank you to the 9 other families who have walked this journey beside me and together. I'm in constant awe of you. I've learned from you, and I'm so grateful for you. I love how different we each all are, and yet we support one another and we love one another. That's the good to come out of this, and I will always keep looking for the good in the world. You've restored my faith in humanity. It's a complex and scary world, but you all give me hope. Finally, cheers to our loved ones. They made beautiful impacts on the world, and nothing can erase that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erica. I'd now like to welcome our City of Boulder Deputy City Manager, Chris Meschuk, for a few remarks, and then we'll be concluding and moving on to connection with one another.
Thanks, Pam, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Meschuk. I serve as the Deputy City Manager for the City of Boulder and was also serving as the interim city manager in March of 2021. And I'm here on behalf of our city manager, your city manager, Nuria Rivera Vandermeide, who unfortunately had a bit of a family emergency this morning and was not able to make it, but sends her heartfelt regards and is very much sad that she is not here at this moment. But I wanted to share her closing remarks, and many of which very much resonate with me as well, which is to stand here first and to tell you that your city will never forget your friends and your family. The memory of that day sits with all of us, and we continue to grieve those who have been taken far too soon and offer support to those that are left behind. Through last year's trial and verdict, it may have brought closure for some. It can never bring back our loved ones, and it can never erase the impact of March 22nd, 2021 had on our community. And hearing the stories of everyone today, it brought actually great hope to my heart. And I, like maybe many of you, have a bit of a ritual of remembrance that is unique to this day and only this day in my life. And to that end, the city continues its now steadfast commitment to remembrance and our work now on a permanent memorial as a place to honor and celebrate the lives that we lost. We're in the process of having those conversations directly with those impacted and many of you in this room, and then developing opportunities for our broader community to share as well as we close in on identifying a recommended memorial location. And as we close our time here together today, I'd like to thank our Day of Remembrance planning team, those who made this effort and this gathering possible, including our host here, the Museum of Boulder, the Boulder County District Attorney's Office, our City of Boulder staff, and Clinica Family Health and Wellness. And Clinica has done such impactful work in our community, and I encourage anyone to connect with them here today. The Boulder community is incredible and is so honored to be a part of and continue to be able to support each other, to check in to one another, to offer memories, a shoulder to cry on, and smiles. And to the families and friends of those that we lost, thank you for sharing your memories here today so that we can celebrate. I have faith that our compassion, our resilience, and solidarity as we continue to move forward, just as we have over the last 4 years. So thank you all. Thank you, Pam Davis, for guiding us through this afternoon, and I welcome her back up to the podium for some closing words.
I hope by now you're all feeling the gratitude, but again, I thank you for being here with us today. I also want to mention two other special individuals before we wrap up here. First, her name has now been echoed a few times in this room, but Katarina, many of you clearly know her through her tireless efforts to support all of those directly impacted. She saw the trial through to completion, even through her own retirement. She's been a beacon of strength and hope in the wake of the tragedy, and we wish her well, maybe on a full retirement, and this next step in your journey. I also want to extend gratitude to Susan Townley. I'm not sure if she's here with us today. Susan also recently retired as the leader of the Boulder Police Department's Victim Services team, and her steadfast support has been a model of leading with heart for many of us in public service. As you move on from our gathering today, you'll see a table in the entryway. We'd like to invite you to take a journal with you. This journal, we invite you to collect your thoughts of remembrance and then to draw from it when you need a moment of light. You'll notice it simply represents the 10 hearts of the 10 lives that we treasure here in this community. I'd like to end with a poem. I originally wrote the words, "The public square is a grocery store," immediately after the shooting to begin to process my own feelings that day. I've revisited the words many times, and last year revised and added to the story out of love for the specific lives that we've lost. Thank you for the opportunity to share it with you once again and for keeping these names alive. I'm going to take my awkward water moment. The public square is a grocery store. That's a hard thing to admit as a public servant who wishes it were City Hall. But I'll insist till I'm through that government matters too, but the grocery store matters more. It's open daily for all, morning to midnight hours. Wave to your neighbors, pick out a little treat, and remember, you're out of flour. Pay for your things when the cash register rings and smile as you walk out the door. Came in for a carton of milk, left with a little more. In 2021, our public square was a grocery store. For months, all who loved it exclaimed, "It's essential. Open in a pandemic, it was that consequential." Until March 22nd, a chilly Monday, we all mourned outside the square when it was stolen away. 10 good people died, and no one knows why. And a man was marched out the door, no shirt, no shoes, just funeral services. The thing about the public square, though, the thing about the grocery store, is that even when it was broken, even when it was not open, it still belonged to everyone. I kept hearing that truth spoken. In every place that I had been, in every face that I had seen, was someone saying, "That's my grocery store." And because it belonged to all of us, from the big to the small of us, no one could take it all from us. The fences came down and windows were repaired, and once again we returned to the public square. 4 years have gone by now since that Monday in March, and those 10 good souls have never left our hearts. Our beloved public square is open again, but we never stop missing our friends. Trelona, Suzanne, Denny, Carrie, Kevin, Denny, Terry, Kevin, Lynn, Ricky, Eric, Jody, and Nevin. They were all so unique and so special to us, each a one-of-a-kind, irreplaceable loss. We take care of our families, we work and we pray, we shop for our groceries and we wait for the day. We might make sense of the senseless or find justice for all, or shrink this big scary world into a home safe and small. No matter how long, we will always remember how beautiful it was when we all were together. We'll cry and we'll smile and we'll yell in the air that no one can take away our public square. And with that, I bring our gathering officially to a close, but we welcome you to stay and please enjoy the refreshments and the connection with one another. Thank you so much.